The princess who never spoke. For 100 years, the Dragon Empire had one question with no answer. Why did the princess never speak? Princess Aelira was born under 3 burning moons, a sign of great power. Her scales shimmered like silver glass, and her eyes glowed with deep blue light. When she cried as a newborn, the palace walls shook. Windows cracked. Flames flickered without fire. After that day, she became silent. Not quiet, silent. No words, no sounds, no cries, not even a breath anyone could hear. At first, the royal healers said she would speak in time. Dragons matured slowly. But years passed, then decades, then a century. The princess grew tall and graceful, her wings wide and strong, but her voice never came. The Dragon Emperor spared no effort. The best royal tutors were summoned from across the galaxy. Mind speakers, memory walkers, sound weavers. Some used magic, some used machines, some tried kindness, others tried force. All failed. One tutor tried to read her thoughts. He collapsed screaming, his mind broken. Another tried to unlock her voice with ancient runes. The runes melted. One brave tutor shouted at her, demanding she speak. The next morning, he was gone. No one asked where he went. Soon, rumors spread through the palace halls. Some said the princess was cursed. Some said she was empty inside. Others whispered the truth was worse, that her voice could destroy worlds. After that, tutors stopped volunteering. Still, the emperor refused to give up. Every failure was erased from records. Every mistake buried. The princess was kept in the highest tower, surrounded by silence and guards who did not speak unless spoken to. She spent her days alone. She read books she could not discuss. She watched the sky she could not describe. She held toys she had long outgrown, but never threw away. Broken toys. That was when the janitor noticed. His name was Eli. He was human. Humans were rare in the Dragon Empire. Small, soft, easy to ignore. Eli cleaned floors, fixed lights, and carried trash out of halls where dragons debated the fate of stars. No one looked at him twice. Every day, Eli cleaned the tower halls near the princess's rooms. He was not allowed inside. No one was. But sometimes he saw things others missed, like the broken toys left outside her door. Wooden animals, cracked dolls, puppets with torn strings. Eli did not throw them away. Instead, he took them to the maintenance room. After work, when the palace slept, he fixed them. He carved new faces, painted gentle eyes, replaced strings with softer threads. He made them better. One night, as he returned a small wooden dragon puppet to its place, something strange happened. The tower lights flickered. Eli froze. He slowly looked up. Behind a tall crystal window, the princess stood. She had never come that close before. Her glowing eyes were locked on the puppet in his hand. Eli's heart raced. He bowed quickly, ready to leave. He knew the rules. Do not look. Do not speak. Do not exist. But as he turned away, the puppet moved. Not from magic. Not from force. From the princess. Her claw pressed gently against the glass. Tap! Eli stopped. Carefully, slowly, he lifted the puppet again. He did not speak. He did not bow. He simply moved the puppet like it was alive, its tiny wings flapping, its head tilting in a silly way. For the first time in 100 years, Princess Aelira smiled. It was small, soft, almost unsure, but it was real. The tower hummed. The air warmed. Somewhere deep beneath the palace, ancient systems stirred. Eli felt it, but did not understand it. He only saw a lonely princess watching a puppet. The smile faded quickly, like it never existed. The princess stepped back into the shadows. The lights stopped flickering. Guards rushed in moments later. What did you do? One growled. Nothing, Eli said simply. They searched him, found only cleaning tools and scraps of wood. They let him go, but the palace had already changed. High above, alone once more, Princess Aelira pressed her claw against the glass again. Not in fear, not in anger, but in curiosity. For the first time, someone had spoken to her, without words. And far below, a human janitor walked away, unaware that history had just blinked and noticed him. The language no dragon knew. The smile should not have happened. That was the first thing the palace scholars agreed on. Princess Aelira had not smiled in a century. Her face had been calm, distant, carved like stone. When the guards reported what they saw through the tower glass, the royal alarms did not sound. But something far worse happened. The palace listened. Deep inside the ancient dragon citadel, systems older than the empire awakened. Crystal veins in the walls pulsed with light. Long-forgotten seals shifted, just a little, as if testing their strength. High above it all, the princess sat alone again. The puppet was gone. She stared at the empty spot near the door where it had been placed. Her claw twitched slightly. No sound escaped her lips, but the air around her moved, bending softly, like it was waiting for permission. She did not understand why the puppet mattered, only that it did. Eli did not sleep that night. He lay in his small maintenance room, staring at the ceiling pipes, replaying the moment again and again. The flickering lights, the glowing eyes, the smile. I didn't imagine it, he whispered to himself. Humans were good at noticing small things. That was their weakness and their strength. The next morning, Eli returned to work as usual. Same uniform, same cart, same ignored presence. But the palace was different. Dragons whispered in hallways. Guards stood straighter. Tutors argued in low voices. Something had shifted, and everyone felt it. When Eli reached the tower hallway, the broken toys were gone. All of them. His chest tightened. That meant one thing. Someone else had noticed. In the council chamber, the Dragon Emperor listened in silence as the tutors spoke. She responded. One said carefully, "Not with speech," another added. "But with reaction," said a third. "That is dangerous." The Emperor's claws tapped the crystal floor. What caused it? No one answered, until a young archivist spoke, voice shaking. A human. A janitor. The room went still. A what? The Emperor asked. A maintenance worker. He was seen holding a puppet outside her chamber. Murmurs filled the hall. Toys have never worked. Magic failed. Mind links failed. And yet a toy succeeded? The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Bring me this human. They found Eli polishing a hallway railing. No drama. No warning. Two guards appeared beside him. You are required elsewhere, one said. Eli nodded. He did not resist. He had learned long ago that fear made things worse. As they escorted him through halls he was never meant to see, Eli noticed something strange. The walls were watching him, not with eyes, but with attention. Meanwhile, high in the tower, Princess Aelira felt the change. The air tightened. The silence grew heavy. She stood suddenly, wings half spread. Her breath quickened, though no sound came. The glass window darkened, reacting to her rising emotion. Something inside her pushed outward. A memory. Fire. Screams. A command spoken long ago. Never speak again. Her claws dug into the stone floor. Far below, Eli stumbled. The lights exploded. The council chamber shook as Eli was pushed forward. He knelt without being told. Look at me, the Emperor said. Eli did. The pressure was immense. Dragons radiated power without trying. Eli felt like a leaf before a storm. You did something, the Emperor said. Explain. Eli swallowed. I fixed a toy. Silence. You think this is a joke? A tutor snapped. No, Eli said quickly. I think she is lonely. That word hit the chamber like a drop blade. Lonely. Dragons ruled stars. They commanded fleets. They did not understand loneliness. You dare speak of the princess's emotions? The Emperor asked. Eli nodded slowly. She didn't need words. She needed someone to talk without demanding answers. A dangerous pause followed. Then, without warning, the entire palace dimmed. Alarm screamed. The floor cracked. The princess was reacting. She senses him, a seer shouted. Remove the human now. Eli was grabbed, dragged toward the exit. And then it happened. A soft movement echoed through the chamber. Tap! A small wooden dragon puppet slid across the floor. Eli stared. He had not brought it. The puppet stood upright. Its head turned. And for the first time, Princess Aelira reached outward. Not with sound, but with intent. Every dragon in the chamber froze as a single truth became clear. The princess had not been silent. She had been contained. And somehow, The human janitor had found the only language her prison could not block. The prison behind the silence. The puppet should not have moved. That was impossible. No magic command had been spoken. No mental signal had been sent. And yet, the small wooden dragon stood in the center of the council chamber, its painted eyes shining softly. Every dragon present felt it. Not power, restraint. The ancient seals beneath the palace groaned, as if warning the empire itself. She is reaching out, the royal seer whispered, her scales paling. Not with sound, but with meaning. Eli stood frozen, guards gripping his arms. He did not understand how the puppet had arrived there. But deep inside, he knew one thing with perfect clarity. The princess was afraid. High above, Princess Aelira trembled. The tower was no longer quiet. It screamed at her without sound. Systems activating, locks tightening, invisible walls pressing in. Her silence had never been a choice. It was a cage built from fear and command. She remembered the day clearly. She had been young, curious. She had spoken a single word. The sky had split. Cities far beyond the palace had lost power. Ships in orbit had fallen from the stars. Dragons had screamed as their own voices turned against them. And so the elders had acted. They sealed her voice behind layers of ancient law and living machines. They told her it was mercy. They told her it was for the empire. They told her never to speak again. And she obeyed. Until now. Destroy the puppet. A tutor ordered in the council chamber. No, Eli shouted. The sound of his voice cracked through the tension like lightning. All eyes turned to him. That thing isn't dangerous, Eli said, breathing hard. It's a bridge. A dragon guard raised his weapon. The emperor lifted a claw. Wait. The emperor stepped forward, staring at the puppet. Explain. Eli swallowed. Some voices are too strong to come out directly. But stories can carry weight safely. Puppets soften the sound. The seers gasped. You built a filter, one whispered. Without knowing. Eli shook his head. I just wanted her to smile again. The floor pulsed with light. Above them, the tower walls glowed brighter. Princess Aelira felt something new pressing against her prison. Hope. Suddenly, the puppet lifted its head. Its mouth opened. No sound came out, but the air moved. Images flashed through the chamber. Burning skies, falling stars. A child clutching her ears as the universe screamed back at her. Several dragons collapsed to their knees. This is her memory, the emperor said slowly. Her silence is a lock. And her voice, the seer finished, is a weapon that cannot be unsheathed. The emperor looked at Eli. You did what centuries of power could not. Eli shook his head. No, I listened. That was when the alarms changed. Not loud, urgent. External breach detected, a guard shouted. Unknown signal source. They're trying to copy the princess's resonance. Every dragon stiffened. Enemy forces. Someone had felt the shift. Someone had realized the princess was active again. High in the tower, Princess Aelira screamed. Silently, the seals cracked. The puppet shattered into light. Eli was thrown backward as a pressure wave tore through the chamber. Seal the tower, the emperor roared. Too late. For the first time in 100 years, the princess did not obey the command to remain silent. Instead, she made a choice. She reached for the one voice that had never tried to control her, the human. And in that moment, the Dragon Empire understood a terrible truth. The princess's silence had never protected them. It had protected the galaxy from them. When the palace turned on the human, silence returned to the dragon's citadel. Not the calm silence of peace, but the tight, dangerous kind that comes before destruction. Smoke curled from cracked crystal pillars in the council chamber. Ancient lights flickered, struggling to stay alive. Dragons lay scattered across the floor, stunned by the memory wave that had passed through them. Eli slowly pushed himself up. His ears rang. His vision blurred. But one thing was clear in his mind. The puppet was gone, shattered into nothing. The bridge he had built no longer existed. And that terrified him. Restrain the human. The order came from a high tutor, sharp and afraid. Dragon guards moved instantly. No, the emperor said, rising to his full height. Not yet, but fear spreads faster than command. One guard fired a restraint field. Eli cried out as invisible force slammed him to the ground. Metal cuffs snapped around his wrists, glowing red-hot with dragon tech. "He is the trigger," a tutor shouted. "Remove him, and the princess will stabilize." High above, Princess Aelira felt it. The moment Eli was restrained, the air around her twisted violently. The walls of her tower screamed in response. Light shattered into fragments. Gravity bent. Her heart pounded, not with rage, with panic. She rushed to the window. Below her, far below, she sensed him, small, human, frightened, being taken. Her claws scraped the glass. No sound came out, but the palace heard her anyway. "Energy surge," a seer yelled. "Her emotional state is spiking." "Silence her chamber," another cried. Ancient suppressors activated. The tower darkened. Princess Aelira fell to her knees as invisible pressure crushed her chest. The seal around her voice tightened, burning like fire inside her throat. She curled inward, shaking. The command echoed again in her mind. "Never speak." Eli was dragged through the halls. Dragons he had cleaned for now looked at him like a weapon that had gone off by accident. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone." Eli shouted. "She's scared. She doesn't understand why you keep locking her away." "Enough," a guard snarled. They threw him into a containment chamber. The door slammed shut. Darkness swallowed him. Eli sat on the cold floor, breathing hard. His hand shook. For the first time since he arrived in the Empire, he felt truly powerless. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have protected you better." The palace shook. Not violently, deliberately. Dragon alarms failed one by one. Light stabilized, but not under palace control. Something else had taken over. "She's overriding the systems," the seer whispered in awe. "Without speaking, she's rewriting them." The emperor stared at the tower feed. Princess Aelira stood again. Her wings unfolded slowly, scraping the walls. Her eyes burned with controlled fire. She lifted a single claw and pointed downward, at the containment level. "She wants the human," a tutor said. "That is not possible," another replied. Releasing him could free her voice completely. The emperor closed his eyes. For the first time in centuries, the Dragon Empire stood before a choice it could not overpower. Control the princess, or trust a human. Inside the containment chamber, Eli felt the floor warm beneath him. Lines of light formed symbols he had never seen before. The door unlocked. Slowly, carefully, Eli stood, heart racing. He stepped into the hallway. No guards, no chains, only a clear path leading upward toward the tower. And deep within the palace, something ancient recorded a new truth into its memory cores. The Dragon Empire had ruled through fire and fear. But now, it was being judged by a princess who had learned what kindness felt like. And she was done being alone. The voice that could end empires. Eli felt it before he saw it. The air grew thick as he walked the silent path toward the tower. Each step made the floor glow faintly beneath his boots, as if the palace itself was guiding him. Not guards, not commands. The princess. He swallowed hard. "I'm coming," he whispered, unsure who or what might hear him. High above, Princess Aelira stood at the center of her chamber. The suppressors had failed. Not broken, overruled. Ancient machines designed to cage gods now pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. The seal around her voice was cracked, bleeding raw energy into the room. Every breath she took bent light. Every movement shook distant stars. She did not want to scream. She wanted to speak. But the elder's warning echoed inside her mind. One word could end everything. Her claws trembled. In the council chamber, panic replaced pride. "She cannot be allowed to speak freely," a tutor shouted. "If she vocalizes without a filter, entire sectors will collapse. We must sedate her now." The emperor slammed his claw into the floor. "And turn her into a prisoner again?" No one answered. A seer stared at the data streams, eyes wide. Another signal is approaching. Fast. Enemy tech. Listening. Hunting. They felt her awakening. The seer whispered. "They want her voice." The truth hit the room like fire. The princess was no longer just a risk. She was a target. Eli reached the tower door. It opened before he touched it. Heat washed over him, not burning, but heavy, like standing too close to a storm. Inside, Princess Aelira turned. For the first time, there was no glass between them. No barrier. Just space, trembling with held-back sound. Eli froze. She was magnificent and terrified. Her eyes locked onto his. He raised his empty hands slowly. "I won't hurt you," he said softly. "I promise." The room reacted. Not violently. Gently. The pressure eased a fraction. Aelira took a shaky breath. Eli understood then. She was not afraid of her power. She was afraid of hurting others. Outside the palace, space rippled. Enemy ships decloaked, dark and sharp, weapons charging. "They're here," a guard yelled. Inside the tower, alarms howled. Aelira's fear spiked. The seal screamed. The room began to collapse inward. Eli acted without thinking. He pulled something from his pocket. A small, unfinished puppet. Crude. Simple. Barely painted. "I didn't finish it," Eli said quickly. "But maybe it's enough." He held it up between them. Aelira stared. The puppet became a focus. A path. She reached out, carefully, and touched it. The pressure stopped growing. The seal stabilized. The impossible happened. She channeled. Above the planet, enemy ships fired. The blast never reached the palace. It bent, curved, fell silent. No explosion. No fire. Just stopped. The galaxy held its breath. Back in the tower, the puppet's mouth opened. And for the first time in 100 years, Aelira spoke. Not a word. A story. A feeling. A gentle wave of meaning that rolled outward, touching enemy minds. They saw her fear, her loneliness, her restraint, their weapons powered down. Ships drifted, harmless. In a council chamber, dragons collapsed in awe. The seer whispered, she didn't end them. She disarmed them, the emperor said. Eli felt tears burn his eyes. "You did it," he said. "You spoke safely." Aelira looked at him, and in a voice only he could hear, not sound, but truth, she thanked him. The Dragon Empire finally understood. Her voice was not a weapon of destruction. It was a force of choice, and in the hands of a human who understood gentleness, it could change the fate of empires. Why humans were feared. The enemy fleet drifted in silence. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Stopped. Across the Dragon Empire's command screens, officers stared in disbelief. Weapons that could crack moons had powered down like tired machines. Crews sat frozen, minds overwhelmed by something no shield could block. Understanding. Fear without hatred. Power without cruelty. The kind of force dragons had never mastered. In the highest tower, Princess Aelira stood steady now, her breathing slow and controlled. The puppet in her claws glowed faintly, acting as a bridge between what she felt and what the universe could survive. Eli stood a few steps away, exhausted but alert. "It worked," he said quietly. "You spoke without breaking anything." Aelira turned her head slightly. Her eyes were calm, but deep inside them lived storms held in perfect balance. She had learned something important. Her voice did not need to be locked away. It needed to be guided. The council chamber erupted in argument. "This changes everything," a general snapped. "It proves humans are dangerous," another replied. "They don't overpower minds. They reshape them." The emperor raised a claw. "Explain." A senior seer stepped forward. "Humans don't dominate. They connect. They create meaning where others create force." A pause. "That makes them unpredictable," the seer added. "That makes them terrifying," the general said. Alarms screamed again, not from the enemy fleet, from within the palace. "Internal override detected," a guard shouted. "Someone is accessing the ancient war network." The room went cold. Those systems had been locked since the first Star War. Only one being had access. The princess. "She's not attacking," the seer said quickly, eyes scanning data. "She's protecting." Above the planet, space twisted. A second threat emerged. Autonomous war constructs. Relics from an age when dragons ruled through extinction. They had been designed to activate if the Empire ever faced existential risk. They did not recognize mercy. They recognized only command authority, and they answered to the princess's core resonance. The constructs powered up. Target locks formed. The galaxy edged toward annihilation. In the tower, Elira staggered. The old systems were pulling at her voice. Try to use it. Her claws shook. This was the nightmare the elders had feared. Eli stepped forward, placing a hand on the puppet. No, he said firmly. They don't get to use you like that. Elira looked at him. Hope flickered. Eli closed his eyes. Talk to me, he said softly. Not them. Not the machines. Me. The puppet glowed brighter. The resonance shifted. The war constructs hesitated. Confusion spread through their systems. For the first time in their existence, they were not being commanded. They were being spoken to. Elira told them a story, not of obedience, not of conquest, but of guardianship, of watching without ruling, of strength that chooses restraint. Across the stars, ancient war machines powered down, drifting into harmless orbits. The threat ended without a single shot. In the council chamber, silence fell. The emperor exhaled slowly. So this, he said, is why humans were feared. Not because they destroyed, but because they changed the rules of power. Elira lowered the puppet. Her voice was stable now, controlled. Her prison was gone. She looked at Eli, then toward the stars. A new future had opened, but with it came a dangerous truth. If humans could guide voices that shook galaxies, others would want them, use them, control them, and the Dragon Empire would soon have to decide, would humans be allies, or the most valuable prize in the universe? The quiet human who changed the galaxy. The galaxy did not celebrate. It watched. When the ancient war constructs powered down, star systems did not cheer. They went silent, trying to understand what had just happened. Empires that ruled through fire and fear felt something unfamiliar settle into their cores. Uncertainty, because the Dragon Empire, unstoppable for 10,000 years, had not won by force. It had listened. In a dragon citadel, the council gathered one final time. Princess Elira stood beside the Dragon Emperor, no longer behind glass, no longer hidden in a tower. The palace systems hummed calmly around her, aligned instead of resisting. Her voice was no longer sealed. It was chosen. The emperor turned to Eli. The human stood in the center of the chamber, wearing the same plain uniform. Same quiet posture. Same unnoticed presence. Except now, every dragon in the room felt the weight of him. You saved us, the emperor said. Name your reward. Eli hesitated. I don't want a title, he said simply. I don't want power. I don't want command. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Eli looked up at Elira. I just don't want her to be alone again. The room went still. Elira stepped forward. For the first time, she spoke aloud, not through puppets, not through systems. Her voice was soft, careful, perfectly controlled. The silence was never my strength, she said. It was my fear. The dragons lowered their heads. She continued. This human did not teach me how to speak. He taught me that I was allowed to. Something ancient shifted. Across the empire, a new order was issued. The tower was opened. The puppet room became an academy. Not for weapons, not for war, but for guides. Humans were invited, not as servants, not as tools, but as soul guides. Beings trained to help voices too powerful for the universe to hear safely. Some dragons resisted. Others feared it, but none could deny the truth. Where fire failed, understanding succeeded. Eli returned his old work. He still cleaned halls, still fixed broken things. But now, when dragons passed him, they bowed, not to his status, but to what he represented. A reminder that the smallest voice could change the greatest empire. On the highest balcony, Elira watched the stars. Eli stood beside her, quiet as always. Will they come again? He asked. Yes, she replied honestly. And next time, Elira smiled. Next time, she said, we will speak first. Far across the galaxy, new legends began to form. Not of dragons who burned worlds, but of a silent princess and a human janitor who proved that true power was not in the voice that could destroy everything, but in the one that chose not to.